Hello and welcome to Let's Talk Song. We're not really talking about a song today. Something's been on my mind. So a viewer wrote to me and said he never writes to YouTubers, but he has to because he's very angry or something like this. How dare I talk about songs? Who am I to talk about songs? And what's my qualification even? And even if I had a qualification, then how can I recommend or critique these songs with these cookie cutter critiques or these cookie cutter techniques? You know, where's the creativity? Blah, blah, blah. The old spiel. And I have to ignore stuff like this. But do I? I did erase the email. I wanted to answer, but then I didn't. But I think now I am. And technically, I'm at a point in my life where I don't have to justify what I do. I don't have to record a single album anymore in my life to prove to myself that I know what I'm doing or really do anything. I could do something completely different and go like, okay, I think I got this music stuff down. But I think a lot of you have come to find me through the channel and they don't know. You might not know who I am and what I've done. So if you want to follow this Let's Talk Song series, and hopefully when my course comes out, by my songwriting course, maybe you should know who I am, what I've done, and why maybe there is some wisdom to what I'm saying. You can also ignore a lot of what I'm saying. That in the end, it's actually listening to everything that I'm saying, buying the course, listening to everything for 40 hours that Rafa and I were teaching you, and then knowing what to ignore. That's the trick. Let's go back into Henning's life a little bit. I started playing guitar and getting into music relatively late in 1990. I think I was 15. Yes, I was 15. So it wasn't the child prodigy or whatever. Not a prodigy at all. I'm not that good at many things, but I'm pretty okay at a lot of them. And played in bands, cover band, played in my own rock band. We wrote original stuff, and boy, was it horrible. That's what you do. You write, you gain experiences, and you get better. I've written a lot of shit stuff in that first band, pretty shit. But was it fun? Yes. Was it an experience? Yes. When I left high school at, I think, the age of 19, we have 13 years in Germany, I worked at a hospital where a rehabilitation clinic, and I drove patients to doctors as part of the not going to the military, doing the social service. And I became friends with a lot of them and learned about their stories. And then I wrote a musical based on that, rock opera, because I was into Sabotage, which is rock opera. I was into piano-based stuff, you know, that kind of stuff. There's a piano here. Meatloaf, so rock opera type stuff called Baby Steps. And it meant a lot to the patients, meant a lot to me. I learned a shit ton. It was never actually recorded back then. We didn't get it on stage, but it was a huge undertaking to actually do it all. Demos were recorded and all that. And after that, I went to Berkeley. Not in California, not that Berkeley, but Berklee College of Music in Boston. And if you don't know this, Berklee College of Music in Boston is one of the best schools for contemporary music. You know, it came out of the jazz days, and now you can do anything from contemporary writing, from MP&E, music production engineering, sound design, which is now called electronic music and design. Back then it was called music synthesis. Didn't quite know exactly what I wanted to do, but after the first semester, took a dual major, and there was contemporary writing and production and music synthesis. Now, I'm not a music synthesist which means a sound designer, who has to go get their keyboard and completely erase everything that they're doing. That's dumb. Some people just erase all the presets and start fresh because, you know, I can do better. No, but I know what to tweak. I can look at this thing right here. And I just got this yesterday, and figure it out relatively quickly without a manual of what it's supposed to do, what it does, which is also really helping me for my videos because I know what an LFO is. I know what waveforms do, all these things. This is not news to me. I actually studied that. But the thing that I really wanted to do was producing. And for that, of course, music synthesis was important. It's not fair to someone with a lisp. Music synthesis. It was important because it had something to do with MP&E, music production engineering, which I probably should have done, but who knew? What I really want to do is work with musicians. Not really be the songwriter, but work with them and produce them and arrange them and put the black dots on paper. Now talk about this. I wrote for some of the biggest Berkeley shows like the Singer Showcase, and I did something like This Is the Police. And when you do this, what you got to do is you're actually writing full freaking scores for the full band. You're writing full parts for every musician. So, do I talk about fucking tube screamers all day? Yes. Do I know how to make music and communicate it? Maybe. A cappella arrangement for the Sabotage song Sleep. And then fully produced it with, singers. Oh, that's funny. School's out, Alice Cooper. But as a full brass arrangement, this is actually a big band score. With trumpet, alto, tenor, trombone, and baritone, guitar, piano, bass, and drums. This is what I did. Then I got a little bit into ambient stuff and world music. And so I wrote this song, which actually ended up on this CD. We're going to get to that. Called The Augmented Animal. Because it was all based on ambichords. What are ambichords? Well, how do I get there? These are ambichords. Can I still play these? So the ambichord is a fourth, a second, and a fourth. Or it's a second, a fourth, and a fourth. Or it's a fourth, and a second. More relevant to brass arranging and stuff like this, but I did it on piano. In the end, there's sus2s and there's sus4s, of course. Haha, that rhymes. But if you treat it like ambichord and not that, it's actually super, super cool to do stuff with, and you stay really floaty in your arrangements. So this is a full score that we did for that song that I wrote, and it was actually performed at the Songwriter Showcase, I think. I just found all this stuff in the attic. I have no idea what this is. I want to hear this. Oh, CW110 Final Project. Candle on the Water. Did I see? This should have Donnie's notes on it. Here was my mentor original lead sheet. Oh man. I miss that freak. So, Candle on the Water from Pete's Dragon from Disney as a full orchestral arrangement. Here's what he wrote. It says A right there. And this video is all about telling you how good I am, okay? So it said A on pretty much everything I did. The guy asked about my qualifications. I'm going to give you fucking qualifications. So Donnie writes, this is my final project. Good work, Henning. You've come a long way. Good technique and quite musical. It was great having you in class. Good luck, Donnie. Where does the player breathe? I don't give a shit. Breathe wherever the fuck you want. So this, man, I should go through this and just look all these notes. Barry is higher than tenor too. Well, what if I want the Barry higher than the tenor? A flat 9. Oh, I've got a flat 9 in there. And he still gave me an A. Oh, he shouldn't have done that. So, I'm going to show you more. What is this? Candle in the Water. Okay, we just looked at that. Somewhere from West Side Stories. There's a place for us. Get it? Somewhere. Written for violins. It's a violin arrangement, which I did with... Can't remember, but he won a Grammy. Just says 100. Oh, this is very stupid. I feel very stupid showing you this stuff, but I mean, this is a drum and bass orchestral arrangement. Yes, drum and bass, like this style drum and bass, And it's fucking a lot. But we had to write it out, the whole freaking orchestra arrangement. This is a trilogy of things I've done called the Younger Brother Trilogy. That's me, and that's my brother. I was working through stuff, but, you know, loads and loads and loads of shit in there. Holy crap, and there was a whole classical choir and harps and who knows what. Cool shit. Yeah. Okay. So bottom line, I went to Berkeley. I graduated with summa cum laude, which technically means you have an average of a 3.5 or 3.75 or something. So in America, the highest grade you can get is an A+, which would be a 4. So all 4s would be ridiculous, okay, with the highest. I think all the way through Berkeley, I had 2 B+, and I graduated after 9 semesters in 2000 with 3.93. That's what I did. So, wasn't 4, but okay. Does that qualify me to talk about songs? Maybe not. Maybe that means nothing. Because it's all about creativity, blah, blah, blah. And you can't learn this. That's dumb. But we get to this. It's just so dumb to say you can't learn this, you can't teach it. That means, how do songwriters learn? How do songwriters get better if you can't teach it? Then it's just divine inspiration? That's dumb. Moving on. Moved to California, hated the fuck out of it, worked at Guitar Center on Sunset Strip, hated it. But sold a mixer and a whole bunch of stuff to an ad agency out in the Riverside County and convinced them to hire me. And then I ran that studio and I wrote jingles. Hundreds of them. There's a whole lesson on jingle writing in our songwriting course. I'm not going to go into it now. I wrote a shit ton of jingles. What do you write? What do you learn? You learn how to listen to the client, how to predict what the client wants, how to write the most ridiculous lyrics that still work in musical contexts, how to use music psychologically to underline what the message is, blah, 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 blah. There's a lot of stuff that you can learn from jingle writing. On the side, I also did loads of TV and radio commercials and recorded the voiceover for that. So I'm pretty good at voice recording and editing. On the side, I recorded an album just for fun. Back in the day, we had a prog metal band called Chain back in Germany. And that band played only in the practice room. We never had a vocalist because we wanted James LaBrie, and anyone that came in, of course, wasn't James LaBrie. Boy, we were young and dumb. So everything that we had done, the only witness of that time was a cassette tape that we recorded with an SM58 lying on the floor. And I found that and said, all these themes are good. These are good themes that stay in your head. And I asked my friend Matt to sing for me, and I produced that whole album purely to give it to the guys in Germany for Christmas. And so I invited them for Christmas. We had coffee and I said, oh, by the way, listen to this stuff. And there was the whole album that we never did. And it was a really good afternoon. And then I sent it to one internet radio station. They started playing it and they said, this is really good shit. You want to have a record contract, which in the prog world meant we'll sell a couple CDs to some nerds. Okay. And there it is. Chain. Reconstruct. Did everything, cover everything. And back then, doing cover meant, I mean, the computers were not fast. This was in 2003, I think. Yep. By 42 Productions. Funny. On Prog Rock Records, this was released. Chain, Reconstruct. Production isn't good. It's decent, but it's not good. But arrangement, good. Oh, I also did a whole solo piano album before I did this called Colored Lines. You can Google that. And then they were like, well, we know James LaBrie, and we talked to James LaBrie, and James said, if you ever want to do an album, let me know if you have someone that's good. So they pitched me to him, and all of a sudden I'm doing an album with James LaBrie under the name Frameshift. The album's called Unweaving the Rainbow, based on individual chapters of books by Richard Dawkins. That comes out, and then the press says, this is the album that Dream Theater should have made. Not what I'm saying, that's what the press said. Read the reviews. That was cool. And all of a sudden, I'm a prog guy that works with James LaBrie. And then I did another album in between called 13 Days, which I don't have here. 13 songs written, produced, mastered, everything in 13 days with 11 different vocalists. Go ahead and do that if you know how to. I'm sitting here as an arrogant fucking bastard, but someone asked. So here we go. I also did Parts That Hate Me with my good buddy Edward Heppenstall. Really, really cool album. Funky kind of stuff. So if you're into, I don't know, Sting and John Mayer, but it's not that. It's just cool songs and they're kind of, funky, and there's beautiful songs like Stolen Moments, Somewhere. Stolen Moments is a beautiful song that I wrote together with him, and it's just piano and him. That's it. Something's broken. Great album. What else? And then we did the second Frameshift album, which I did with Sebastian Bach from Skid Row. And when Metal Maniacs, the magazine, wrote the Sebastian Bach, the definitive Sebastian Bach, whatever article, and guess which album they said this is the Sebastian Bach album? It wasn't Skid Row. It was Frameshift's An Absence of Empathy. I mean, he's a fucking douchebag, but I made him sound good. Played every single instrument on this. Wrote all the songs with my buddy Matt and Adam, who did the lyrics with me, and Sebastian Bach sang it. So, don't know what qualifications do I have? Apparently none. And then Sebastian Bach turned out to be an asshole, and he said, I want credit where credit's due. And then I did credit where credit's due, which is like industrial metal stuff, and it's really, really silly. And it's got a song about masturbation and just about, he always says, Mother Trucker! And there's a song called Your Mother is a Trucker. There's a whole song about Halo, a big nerdy thing. One called German Metalhead. It's a fun album that I just did for shits and giggles. I don't care if anyone listens to it. There were more that I did, and then Baby Steps. We actually did Baby Steps. I don't have one here. I don't know where my albums are. We did Baby Steps before I left. Sold it outright to the label. Got a shit ton of money for it. Well, what for me was a shit ton of money. It was pretty much what you would pay for one song. We did that before I left back to Germany, where I taught guitar for 10 years because I arrived here and I had to start over. Okay, wanted to be closer to my parents. And during that time, I got hired. I taught guitar and I got hired to do this. Roswell 6. Roswell 6 is a project band. It's got Steve Walsh from Kansas on it. Seth Jordan, one of my favorite vocalists, is singing. Michael Sadler from Saga, which I did quite a bunch of stuff with. Alex Fröse, my friend. Charlie Dominici, the first vocalist from Dream Theater, is on it. Arjun Lucassen is on it. A whole bunch of other musicians. No, I did most of the stuff. Actually, it's only vocalists. I did all the instruments. Yep. Music by Henning Pauli. So I wrote the whole damn thing based on lyrics that were given to me, and it's a concept album about a war between two different religious factions, whatever. It was a paid job. So in terms of qualifications, I know I sound so fucking arrogant. Someone paid me a lump sum of money to write an album. Wouldn't you just pay someone that knows what they're doing? Apparently not. You see where this is going. At some point, I don't know when. Does it say when? Nope, there's no date on it. SPV, Prog Records. Shadows Minion, An Absence of... what's it called? Midnight Sky Masquerade. That's a tribute to 80s metal. It's all 80s metal. Funny stuff. It's like, Dio, Dokken, Manowar, Iron Maiden, all that stuff. What did I learn? I learned how to analyze and reproduce and then engulf myself in 80s metal. After that, I did Shadows Minion, In the Shadow of the Minion, which never was released. It's all classic rock. It's 70s tribute, but then, of course, my own versions. And you've heard a bunch of these songs. You've heard a lot of this stuff on my channel, if you follow my channel. There's also The Minion Rises Live, a whole live album, which actually was never performed live. It sounds extremely live. It's a full live album. with all the stuff that a live album would have been recorded as with, but it's all studio stuff. There are more. There's a second Chain album called Chain EXE, where the first song is 38 minutes. Chain EXE, great album. And then, of course, all the stuff I've produced. Oh my God. Campaign Like Clockwork and BD Clover, Tobias Biedert, different guy, same guy, different stuff. What else? Oh my God, I can't think of the band names. Knockdown Industries. I've produced a shit ton of stuff, and I was always, obviously, as a producer, arranger, working with them on lyrics, on the song form, on let's do a different chord here. So everything I'm doing in the series Let's Talk Song, I've been doing for 30 years now. Now, does doing something a lot give you the experience to talk about it? Maybe not. It does doing it a lot, and then you get recognized for it positively with 1,000 reviews on I don't know how many different albums, give you the right to talk about it and give some advice. Maybe. The funny thing is, that's the funniest shit ever. And you guys keep buying all the stuff I recommend or don't recommend. You watch my channel for advice on pedals and amps and guitars. And most of this stuff is recorded on a Pod 2 rack mount. I didn't have a single tube amp. I knew nothing about guitar tone. So when it comes to trusting me as a tone advisor, apparently that's super easy, and it's yes, and Henning knows the shit when it comes to tone. No, literally, I started the channel because I bought my first pedals. I know how to record guitar. I know how to arrange guitar. I know what makes sense in a mix. I had, when I started the channel, no idea about how to use pedals. I grew with it. I didn't know what a fuzz was. Just thought it's a broken pedal, literally. So it's very funny that I became this guy that people come to for trusted advice when it comes to gear, but then I get questioned when it comes to my expertise as a producer or songwriter, when that is actually what I'm literally recognized as for. From my teachers, from my school, from hundreds of magazines and blogs worldwide. So, am I qualified to talk about songwriting? I wouldn't if I didn't think I was qualified. I wouldn't talk about it. If I don't know something, I will tell you. Now, let's go into the other thing that this email pointed out, which is it's all about creativity and how can, you can't go and do cookie cutter stuff. That is completely incorrect. There are people that have an innate feeling of what the next chord should be. And they write great music. They feel that the next chord should be hanging, and which chord that should be. They feel the next chord should be tense, and they know what chord that should be. And then they feel that the next chord should be home. They don't know 1-4-5-1 or substitutions or, sub fives or secondary dominants. They just know what feels right, and they know how to find it. If you're one of those people, you don't need a songwriting course. If you're one of those people who most of the time finds things and it's all great, but then you get stuck, well, my course and what I'm teaching can get you unstuck a lot quicker than fiddling, noodling around and trying to find the right chord or whatever. You can't really teach songwriting, but you can. You can teach how to get unstuck. You can teach how to see patterns more easily. A lot of music that's out there, that's good, that you like, actually follows those rules, whether they know or not. Should you always follow the rules? And is all the music going to be exactly the same then? No, you shouldn't always follow the rules. Sometimes you break them because you just like a sound. But if it sounds good, there's usually an explanation for that. And we're looking at those explanations in the course. Just because you're using a tried and true chord progression doesn't mean it's going to sound the same. Please look at the Axis of Awesome. It's got tens of millions of hits. And it shows you the same chord progression that everyone uses. So it's 1, 5, 6, 4. And that chord progression happens in Greensleeves, in Bon Jovi, and the Beatles, and a million other songs. Yet, you would never say that these songs sound the same. You would never even say that these styles are the same. You would never even think of the fact that it's using the same chord progression. So, there is no cookie cutter. It's always what you do with it. Yeah, there are no new amazing chord progressions. It doesn't exist. So yes, you can learn this. You can't learn songwriting. You gotta be free and you gotta be inspired and it's all in the vibe. That's hippie fucking bullshit. You can learn anything. If you don't have a talent for it, maybe you're not gonna write good songs. But if you like doing it, you will be able to take what we can teach you and make your songs better. Absolutely. Maybe you never thought of a secondary dominant. Maybe you know the sound in your head, but you don't know how to get there. For example, okay, we've got a 1 here, a 2, and a 4. Now I want to get to the A minor, but I want to really build up to it. So I'm doing the 5 of the 6. See how that pulls there? Wow, huh? What did I do here? I didn't play the E. I did the 5 off the A minor, which isn't in the key, but with a 3rd in the bass. That's kind of shit you do when you work on piano. So. I haven't played piano in a long time, so I'm really enjoying my new Piano 5 from Nord. Thanks to Sound Service for giving me a deal on this. It still cost me an arm and a leg, but I really love this. And I especially love the Keith in Köln sound because I'm a big fan of Keith Jarrett's The Köln Concert. Check that out if you want to hear a mind-blowing performance. It's very different than what you would expect. It's not the jazz. So you can learn these things. You can learn how to pay attention to lyrics. You can learn to pay attention to, maybe I should rhyme sometimes. That's a good idea. Or what rhyme patterns make sense. Now, songwriting is about pattern recognition. It is about seeing what you've created and then being able to replicate that maybe with a twist. And if you look at lyrics, I did an AABA. Well, maybe for the next verse, I should also do an AABA so people can fucking hear what you've done here and what you've done here, and those two things actually match. And you don't give them another new stupid part that they can't get into their stupid brains. Create something, but then make it match other parts of the song, because otherwise it gets too cryptic and nobody gets it. So if you've created something in verse A, recognize the pattern you've established, and then you need the tools to find out how can I do that again? Where can I find the rhymes? We're going to give you those tools. How can I see the pattern? How can I see what I've done? How can I find out what key I'm actually in and how to stray from it but not too far? What's possible and still musical? These are hints and tips. If you have no feeling for music, this doesn't help you. But can you learn it? Yes. I wrote horrible songs when I started, and now I can sit down and can write a very decent song that people can digest and have fun with any time of the day. I can literally just sit down and do it. Am I as good as Rafa, who just has these beautiful melodic ideas? I'm better at listening to someone and then guiding. Like, I don't know, try to go here. And they're like, oh yeah, great, I haven't thought of this. So I'm very good at playing off of someone instead of completely starting on my own. Have I written a shit ton of songs? Yes. Would I rather work with a songwriter and have us come together? Yes, that's more my world. But I've gotten a lot better since my Storyteller days, which was my very first band. Over 30 years ago now. 32 years ago. Holy shit. Hey guys, if you're watching this, which you're not, that was a little bit on me in my history and why I think I should be talking about songwriting. The thing is, if you follow the channel for the gear and you think I know what I'm talking about, then most certainly you should follow me for my songwriting advice, because holy crap, I know a lot more about that than I know about gear. I mean, now after 10 years on YouTube and talking to other creators, the makers of the stuff I do, having custom guitars built, being friends with Dave Friedman, Luca Baratella from Red 7, and Joe Morgan, and Mike Soldano, and, Derek and Dan Trudeau from Rev, and knowing all these guys. Yes, I know quite a bit about gear now. Okay, I do know what a fuzz does. Thank you, Chris Jupiter. But my passion was always in production and writing and arranging. So that email saying, who are you to teach me about songwriting? And you can't even teach songwriting. That did get stuck in my brain. And boy, was it dumb. Don't write shit like this. Also, before you write to someone and say, what are your qualifications? Fucking Google them. My name is Henning Pauli. Okay? Write that into the Google. You Googly me. And you will see Henning Pauli, YouTuber Henning Pauli, 42 Gear Street in Thomann. I don't know. What? Nothing to do with Thomann other than I review some of their Harley Bentons. Look at the albums. Look at the reviews. You still don't have to take any advice from me. But I advise you to take advice from me. It can't really hurt. And all I can tell you is that course is going to fucking rule. I don't think there's going to be a course like that anywhere. I'm out. I'll put animals at the end. And next week, we're going to look at another song.
It's times like these that show us what we're all about. And will you please be strong enough to sit this out? I'll see you on the other side. There's kisses and rainbows for everyone. The time will come, but not tonight. It's why we have to stay 6 feet apart. We're gonna come together. We hold all the cards. We only have to play them right. So do your part, and everything will be alright. It might be hard.